Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Doctor Will See You Now, bringing you conversation with the latest fabulous authors, and especially at a time when so many books have just been released. Here we are in September 2020, and there's been that massive outpouring of books. However, we plan to keep our release going throughout the year until we can maybe return for Newcastle Noir in 2021. This week, I have with me fabulous author Caroline England. Caroline, welcome to the surgery, shall we say?
Oh, it's exciting. I mean, what are you going to find out about me? I'm worried.
I would just say sit back and just relax into my questions.
Great.
Speak freely. You are amongst friends. No, it is lovely to have you. Thank you for taking time out to come and talk to us about your work and about your path to becoming a published author and how things have gone since then. I read that your profession, that you were in the law, and I've been keen to ask. That idea of going from being a lawyer and to being that full-time mom, and I just wondered, you say it was then that you began the writing, but was there ever an inkling before that you might take up, being an author?
I think it was always. I loved English at school, but I think I was sidetracked into going into the law because I was from a family of lawyers.
Uh-huh.
But I think I've always written in a way because from being very small, I would lie in bed at night trying to drop off, and I'd make up stories in my head. And they were usually romances, and it would be, say, Donny Osmond would be the hero.
And why not? Yeah, I can see that. I get that.
Yeah, and he would be in a coma, and I would be the nurse. I know, a bit extreme, but I'd be the nurse tending to him, and he would wake up, and the first thing he would see was me. And so this story would go on, and so I've always done that. And then at school, I used to have a little poetry club going with the boys, and we'd send each other poems. And then, of course, the law itself, actually, you're writing all the time.
Yes, yeah.
So there was a connection all along. So yeah, I think it was there. Deep down somewhere, it was definitely there.
So given your profession before becoming that full-time writer, are you good with deadlines?
Yes.
Yeah.
In a word, yes.
Yeah, anybody who I talk to, I was thinking like LJ Ross, somebody who has been in that profession, or somebody who is still in that profession, deadlines is, I'm extremely envious. Maybe I needed to be trained in the law to meet my deadlines, because
Yeah.
I don't. But you do. You must be your publisher's dream to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So you begin your writing, and I just wonder, how long did it take from you producing that first draft for it being accepted and being taken, to be published?
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of authors, it was a long journey, a lot of rejection along the way. I don't think I took it. I was in the writer's closet for a long time, and I wrote first drafts of a few novels, and I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell my children or my husband, but I admitted to short stories, and I kept the novels in the closet.
I'm too embarrassed by my novels. Yeah.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? But it's a funny thing. It's all to do with, I guess, confidence.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Totally. And what will people say if they read it? Yeah.
yeah, and I think it's one of those things, isn't it? To sort of, it's a bit grand to say I'm a novelist, sort of thing, and people will think, really, that's a rather glorious thing to say. But so I did admit to writing short stories and poetry, and so I carried on with my short stories. And I was lucky that someone got in touch with me and said, would you like to do a short story collection? And so that, and I think you've got it.
I do. Shall I waft the first one?
Yes.
Here it is.
Yes. So that became Watching Horsebacks Feed the Roses. And I think that gave me the confidence to realise that maybe my writing wasn't too bad. And so then I went back to the novels and I started submitting them. But as I'm sure you know, you can submit to agents, and not everyone has to have an agent, of course. You can go straight to a publisher, but I went down the agency route and submitted here, there and everywhere, and I've met a few of the agents since. You know, it's really straight away you go, I submitted to you, you rejected me.
You didn't want me. Yeah, I don't care.
But I eventually got lucky, and but this was after years, and I got lucky and found an agent. Then quite swiftly after that, she got me a deal with HarperCollins, Avon, HarperCollins.
Yeah.
So that's when it was like dream come true world.
Brilliant. Yeah, that moment of, and I wonder, because I normally ask authors, can you pinpoint that moment where you can say, I am become, I am now there, I'm on the journey. I mean, your two collections of short stories, how many novels is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5
Yeah.
novels to your name. Do you feel that you have made it? And when I say made it, I don't necessarily mean, raking in lots of money, but the idea of you can now consider yourself a novelist.
Yes, I guess so, but I still think there's people think it's a bit of a hobby. Not just me. I think for a lot of authors, it's sort of like you're not quite taken seriously because you write and writing's fun and it's not. It just comes easily. But of course, it's a job like any other job, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think for me, that moment you were mentioning was when I got an offer from HarperCollins. Initially, it was for just ebook, digital only. But my big thing was I wanted to see my book on the bookcase. And so we went through, I signed up with them anyway. We went through the process, and after a little bit, they came back and said, actually, we're going to do paperback. So that for me was the moment.
That was the moment. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? I still think, despite, and given the circumstances we're living at the minute, we've become even more digital in a way. Our lives have become more digital. And yet there is something about holding that book.
Yeah.
And if that book's your own, I think, again, going back to that thing that you were talking about of being, being a closet novelist and being a little bit vulnerable and not wanting people to maybe have an opinion or see it. And yet when it's on that shelf, you've got that affirmation.
Yes,
that says
absolutely.
It can be, it's allowed to be now and it's allowed to be out there.
I think you're really right about affirmation. That's so, for me personally, I need other people to say I'm good enough. And I'm sure a lot of us do, because there's a lot of imposter syndrome going around, isn't there?
Without a doubt. It's interesting. I'm working with a small group at the minute doing some creative writing. It's a very little thing, but even in that, people saying, I don't think I can do this. I don't think, and that notion of, but I think storytelling is within us.
Yes.
I really do. And again, I was talking to an author last week and saying, is it that we create stories, or do the stories come out of us, like a conduit that, I mean, I don't know whether you've ever, in your creative process, have you reached a moment where, you're either with a character thinking, I didn't ever think you'd do that, or, the plot line goes somewhere and I think, I would never have taken this, but I just have to go.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I'm, as they say, are you a plotter or a pantser? I'm definitely a pantser. And the stories do go off. It's sort of a writing magic in a way. And you wonder where it comes from. Is it inside there somewhere, or what is it? I don't know. And I do love that when it happens. It's very exciting. When your characters tell you what to do.
It's like, thank you, because now I don't have to keep thinking what you're going to do. You're telling me what you're going to do. So that first novel, Beneath the Skin, and also known as The Wife's Secret, it began, that number of standalones that you now have. and the style being domestic psychological thrillers.
Yes.
And again, did you choose the style, or did the style choose you?
I think the style chose me.
Mm.
I just those my closet novels.
Mm-hmm.
I just wrote stories that I guess I would like to read. I mean, I like intrigue, and I like relationships, and I like secrets and everything. And I didn't realise till I was at HarperCollins again, and my editor said, right, as the months, you know, the build up, off you go to some crime writing festivals. You know, there's Crime Fest and there's Harrogate. And I sort of said, why? And she said, it's crime fiction. So until then, I didn't really realise it was crime. But I suppose there is a crime or two hidden in. It's not on the page. It's not sort of like procedural, police procedural
Yes.
or anything, or where there are murders as such.
Mm-hmm.
But there is crime threaded through. It's often historical crime or whatever. But you know, so I should have known really. But yeah, so it found me. Yeah,
Is that what I am? Yeah,
yeah.
beautiful, beautiful. Again, I wonder to what extent the fact that because you were a divorce and professional indemnity lawyer, yeah,
Yeah.
and so I wonder, with that divorce element, did you ever draw on any of the cases that you dealt with? I mean, I know you can't name people or
Oh.
anything like that, but did you find that a source of inspiration?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, when I was training, I also did crime.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a bit of crime, and I was duty solicitor, and I used to go to Strangeways Prison
Mm-hmm.
and meet all the criminals. Um, and of course, all my divorce cases and family law and whatnot. But I think it was all to do with people at the lowest ebb.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that the shades of lightness and dark in us all, and our frailties. And I think it really brought it home how none of us are perfect. We're all frail. We've all got secrets. We've all got issues going on beneath.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a real eye opener. And certainly in my early 20s doing divorce law, and it was like, oh, you know, does that really go on behind closed doors? So yes, very much. I have been influenced, and as you say, I can't name names, but no, but it is because all sorts does go on behind closed doors, and I find it fascinating.
Mm-hmm. And I must say, I think, and the stories that you bring to us and those revelations that are there within your tales, yeah, it's beautiful stuff that that you create. I do love that. So two standalones. My husband's lies, the second, and it became a Kindle top 10 bestseller, and many congrats on that. And
Yeah.
it's at this point that I wanted to ask you. Um, our crime fiction comes to us in various formats. I must say I do prefer to turn a page, although with traveling and things like that, sometimes the screen is necessary, or even the audiobook's great when driving. But for you, okay, being an author is one thing, but in your reading, what do you prefer and
I'm
why?
definitely a paperback person.
Mm.
I've just been on holiday and I got through 5 books, and it was such a pleasure just to read them, because I think the trouble is when you're an author, you start reading with a bit of a critical eye. I mean, I'm sure you've got a very critical eye because that's what you teach and everything. But I just really enjoyed them, and I, I don't want to read on screen because we all write on screens, don't
Yes,
we?
yeah,
And I don't actually have a Kindle. I have a Kindle app on an iPad.
yes, yeah.
So yes, and audiobooks is a dreadful confession. The only audiobook I have ever listened to is my own book, which sounds really awful, doesn't it? But I couldn't wait to see how the narrator had interpreted the
Yes,
characters
yeah.
and whatnot. So I was there listening, and I bet people think that's dreadful. It's her own book.
No,
But
I honestly, seriously, what? No, I think to me it sounds that idea of I want to make sure this is all right.
yes, yeah,
Because in knowing that these are your words, these are your ideas, and if sadly, if the person who is there conveying this doesn't do justice to it, then I think it's quality control, and it makes perfect sense. So yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think if I did a lot of driving, I would listen to more, but I
Mm.
tend not to get out and about much because you need time, don't you, to listen, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think it also says to me though that you don't do much ironing, because I know a lot of people.
Well, you're right, I don't.
Yeah, yeah. Just because I know a lot of people who say, "Oh, yeah, I put I put the audiobook on, and before you know it, I've gone through the ironing, I've not even realised," and it's yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, that's a good tip.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Start. No, 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 no.
Yeah, I'm not going down that route, not the
Don't,
ironing
don't, don't.
route.
No, don't. Now, your latest standalone, Betray Her. I will come back to that a little bit later, because what I wanted to do was come back to that notion of you writing short stories.
Yes.
Okay. I love that, I love the multifaceted nature of the way you write. But I just wondered for you, um, are there pleasures and pains that go specifically with one size of publication and that go with another size of publication?
Yeah, I guess I must admit I found the short stories fairly easy, but people do say they're harder in terms of obviously you've got to have a beginning, a middle, and an end in a really short piece.
Yeah.
But I quite like that, and I quite like getting it down there. You could shape it and mould it quite quickly. Whereas, of course, a novel, it is effectively the same thing, but a lot longer, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it is a chore, not a chore because I enjoy doing it, but when you set out and you need to write 80,000 to 100,000 words and you've written 10,000 and you feel, well, you've almost told the story, so it is, I like the short story form, but now I'm a convert, so I really do, I don't know if I'd go back to that.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
novels now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I love the way that, initially you were a bit, ooh, these novels I don't know. And in that journey, I'm with my novels. I'm fine. I'm in there. Which brings me though to the other aspect of your novel writing, and that writing under a pen name, Caroland. I wonder, could you explain to us um, choosing that pen name and why the change in the name?
well, yeah, my first two books were with HarperCollins, and they're Caroline England books. That's obviously Beneath the Skin and My Husband's Lies. Then I went to Little Brown Piactus, who have it's the Betray Her, which is my latest
That's
one.
gorgeous. Do that again.
I know,
Just do
isn't
that
it a
again.
lovely cover? I know
Classic.
it's a
Yeah.
shame that we obviously, because it would look so nice on a book, but obviously we're in COVID times, aren't we? So things are slightly different. But but the Betrayer has been bubbling along for a long time because it came out in ebook probably 18 months ago now.
Mm-hmm.
So it was around for a long time before it came out in paperback this July. So I had more novels on my computer than I could get them out, if you like. And I've
Yeah.
written two standalone, two different genre books. They're both legal. And they are the ones you're referring to, my Caroline books, basically convictions and confessions. So because I had these spare manuscripts, I went to Bloodhound Books,
Mm-hmm.
and they kindly offered me a book deal to write these series of the Natalie Batch books, but they're as well as my Caroline England books.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Can I
sorry,
just say,
yeah,
I think you must be the envy of many an author, who struggles, with one identity and one set of books to say, there's two me's and I've got two different strands going here. I think that's wonderful. Well done. Yeah,
thank you,
nice.
thank
Yeah.
you. But I did want to I wanted to introduce Natalie to the world in my Caroline. And obviously I've been a bit of a cheat because I've used the beginning of my name and the end of my name, Caroline England. So I've been, because someone sort of said to me, is it Latin or Greek you've gone for? And I thought, no, nothing as clever as that.
Should have said yes, I have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I
Yeah.
should have
Yeah.
said that.
Yeah.
But it's been nice to have that. And obviously they're a different genre. And my publisher, my Little Brown publisher, obviously they've got the Caroline England name. So I
Yeah.
needed a different pen name. to go with the Natalie books.
But I like the fact that it's not that far away. You know, it's not like
Yes.
you've got a totally different persona. I like that it can easily be traced to you. So the Natalie Bach series. At least I'm hoping it's a series, but is that just me? Because I do like female protagonists like the one you've created. It's legal suspense, yeah. So it
Yes.
really does go back to a former world of yours.
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
I'm sort of comfortable, even though I've not been in the law for a little while. So I hope I'm getting the law right. I'll be in trouble if I don't. No, I do my research or ask the hubby. So is this
Oh,
correct?
is he still in it?
Yes, yes.
Oh, excellent, great, yeah, yeah,
So I
yeah,
can blame him if I get it wrong.
totally.
But yeah, so I've really enjoyed that, and I do enjoy. But it's similar, as you say, the suspense and characterization. I'm really big on characterization. I like my characters, and so again in these two books, my Caroline books, again I like characters and I like an eclectic mix of people and ethnicities and sexual preference, etc. So I like those, and I like the humor. I
Yeah.
think you can put more humor in those books than perhaps in the standard psychological thrillers.
Yeah, definitely, because I think, if you ever, she's part of a law firm, so you've automatically got the banter or the interaction between different people in the firm and things like that. And also, I think, that notion of a psychological thriller, to come out of the darkness that's involved in that, I think it's difficult, and I do wonder whether it makes sense to bring humor or too much humor into psychological thrillers. I don't know. That's a tricky one. But convictions and confessions. And I just want to stick with Natalie just for one little bit more if we can, because given that we're living in COVID times, if she'd been in lockdown with you, how how would she have been, do you think? Do you think she'd have been okay to have had in the bubble there? Or do you think, nah?
Yeah, she's a bit of a doer, Natalie. It's funny because my daughter, we've just been on holiday, and she read the second one, Confessions, and she went, she's always getting her nose in everything, sort of stuck in. And I said, well, as a protagonist, you have to have someone who wants to get involved and get stuck in. And I think Natalie's a character where it could be helping people or it could be slight interference, but she means well. But it's like any protagonist. If you have a series, you have to, like if you have a police officer, they've got to get stuck in, haven't they?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So you need a character that's got to get involved with other people's lives, otherwise you don't have the story, do you?
Yeah.
So yes, I think she'd be getting stuck in everything as much as she could in lockdown. Probably she'd be zooming everyone, I'm sure, all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
What's
Yeah.
going on?
Oh, that's right. So a good person to have around.
Yeah.
My last question then on this part of your work, in the second book, she has to investigate, or she has to look at a case of presumed assisted suicide.
Yeah.
Not the easiest of topics. I just wondered, when you were doing your research for the book, did you find that difficult to look at that aspect?
Yeah, I do feel it's important to for my books. Obviously, they're fiction, but I like to keep them as grounded and as realistic as I can. So I like to try and have sort of effectively real people and real issues in them. And I do have quite a lot of issues, mental health issues and all sorts. And I try and be respectful about all those things and do my research first, talk to people, and make sure I do get it right, because I think that's so important. And again, with the assisted suicide, I didn't actually speak to anybody in that, but I did a lot of research online and whatnot, and I looked into family cases and that sort of thing. So you do try and be as respectful as you can be, whilst it's still being obviously a line of the story and fictional. Yeah, so it is difficult because with crime fiction, we're all using quite tricky things, aren't we?
Yeah.
Tricky subjects and tricky, there's
Yeah.
all sorts going on, and it is the underbelly, dark side of life, isn't it, to a certain extent?
Yeah,
So
it is, and that idea of presenting it as a storyline, whereby as you say, that respectful approach to things, because you don't want to sugarcoat, and you don't want to prevent, you know, real getting down to the nitty gritty of something. So again, I think, to possess the ability of finding that balance, you know,
Yeah.
it is certainly a skill. Um, I said how much I liked Natalie, and it might be a bit of a big ask, but convictions, confessions, might there be another C in there?
Yeah, come on, think of some C's for me.
Mm,
Yeah,
criminals,
consequences,
consequences. Oh, yes.
isn't it?
Yeah, there we go. I hope to see that. Yeah, on the bookshelves or on Amazon or wherever. Please, I would like a third one, but that's just my preference.
Oh, thank
So,
you.
but let's come back to Betrayer. Hold up that glorious cover
Yes,
again. Let's have a look at that.
yeah, yeah.
Beautiful. I always like to know. Were you able to choose that cover?
Well, funny enough, this is the third cover we've had because they've been marvellous. I've got a really lovely editor called Anna, who's
Mm-hmm.
very, collaborative and wants my opinion on things. So the first one was for the ebook, and that was completely different. It was two sort of, well, I've got it here. If I could just quickly.
Yeah, sure.
Where's it gone? Oh, it's that was the first one, as you can see. So it was completely different. It had these two, and it's to do with this and the sort of line through one of the ladies to show the schism between the friendship. And then it went on to the big one. Where's that one gone? Gosh, no, I can't. Oh, there we go. Sorry.
It's all right.
Quick.
No worries.
So then it went on to this was the trade paperback size.
Yeah.
It's the same face, but slightly different. Can you see that?
Yeah. And I think, again, that's fascinating, the different effect
Yeah.
that all three covers have.
And they've just
Yeah.
changed. This went from a sort of red one to this one. I don't know if you can see online, to pink. But every time they were very collaborative and asked me what I thought and whatnot. So it was lovely. Yeah. And I do think it's a great cover.
So, without giving anything away, because we ban spoilers from this wherever possible, tell us then, because you alluded, with the ebook cover there, that idea of a friendship that goes wrong.
Yes.
Yeah. Please tell us about Betrayer.
Right. Well, it's the story of Kate and Joe, who meet when they're 8 years old at boarding school. And they're from very different backgrounds, but they found that they form a friendship, a bond, because of the hardship and whatnot, and all the things that go on during their time at boarding school. So we get sections of back then in boarding school, then we get sections of the book when they're teenagers, when they first leave school, and then we get the present time when they're approaching 40. And the friendship isn't all that it seems, because there are things going on beneath the surface that you gradually learn as the book goes along. And it's quite interesting because we have the two main characters, and it's interesting how people interpret them, and people who support one character, Joe, more than Kate, or Kate more than Joe. And there's a man in the mix, so of course that causes problems.
That causes bother. Yeah. Every time. Yeah. But in creating this story, so and starting off, well, did you start off with them at school, or did you, when you were starting your writing, or did you start off with them approaching their 40s? Where did they begin?
Oh, good question. I can't remember now. I mean, the story itself begins at boarding school, that first day when they're taken there. But I think the way I work is it's the magic we were talking about before, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Sort of like, but I think the friendship was always there from. I think that was important, that they had this bond from being so young, and uncomfortable things go on at boarding school.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's a bit of a reflection because I went to boarding school myself. So there's a lot of authenticity, I hope, about that, and some of the things the dark things that went on there. And So yeah, and then it's weird the way it all comes together. I think I had one storyline going and another one, and they sort of came together.
Yeah, yeah.
Probably when I was lying in the bath. Because that's probably where it happens, where I go, oh, that's really good.
Does it often happen like that for you? You know, is the bath the place where it happens?
Yes, I'm wrinkled from lying in the bath so long.
But it's worth it for my craft. Yeah, that's the thing.
I'm very
So
clean though.
cleanest author in Britain. Yeah, no, but so these two female voices, and again, because it's always the process of you know developing this. How did you ensure that you maintained two very separate voices? Because I'm thinking similar experiences, similar ages, you know where did you draw those lines to ensure that one character didn't bleed into the other for yourself, not necessarily in the story, but for yourself, so that you didn't lose them as you went?
Yeah, I think though it wasn't too hard in terms of they're very different characters. And they came from different backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
Joe came from a working class background, made good type of thing, nouveau riche, so to speak, whereas Kate came from, the landed that already had money sort of thing. And in fact, the story is actually all from Joe's point of view. I've
Okay,
not done it
yeah.
where,
All
so it's
right, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So what we learn about Kate, I suppose, is in a way through Joe's eyes. That's in the present, but whereas I suppose in the past it's a little bit more, what you have someone looking down on them, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, they are very different. So I'd love to hear if anybody has read. I'd love to see what they thought of these characters.
Yeah, please, anybody out there who's read Betray Her, if you want to put a message on our YouTube page, or write to Caroline and ask her and tell her
Oh,
about
any
that.
questions? Yeah.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. So Betray Her uh, came out in July, is that right?
Yes, the paperback
The
finally.
paperback. The
Yeah.
paperback came out in July, and I wonder, because I know so many authors. These are really tricky times. Uh, you know, getting books out, publicity. Um, are there any strategies that you and your publishers have used that have surprised you to get the word out there?
Um, what do you mean in terms of publicity on
Yeah,
marketing?
yeah, or marketing, and anything that's gone on, to ensure that Betray Her gets out there.
I think it's just the usual standard stuff, isn't it? I don't think there's been anything particularly odd or unusual.
They've not
Yeah.
asked you to do anything crazy. No.
No, no. Obviously, I rode a horse down the street naked, but my hair isn't long enough to be Lady Godiva. But no, nothing too extreme. I don't.
Nothing to, yeah. Yeah. Be very careful. You may find if COVID carries on for the next book,
Yeah,
they,
well, yeah.
they'll be listening.
We've all been trying online, and you've been such a help. You've been brilliant with all the authors that would have been at Newcastle and whatnot, and just
Yeah,
encouraging everyone. You've been brilliant.
it is a pleasure. I'm a firm believer that, where possible, I know, sometimes, again, it, reading has been difficult, focusing, concentrating. But I think when it's been possible, to lose ourselves in good
Yeah,
stories, you know, to be able to just shut this crazy world out for a little bit, and so I'm really grateful, for the
yeah,
authors that I know and the authors that I don't know yet, whose work means that, we have a place to go. Um, I ask every time, but I don't know what will happen for Newcastle Noir 2021. I don't know whether we'll be able to do blended. That's my desire, but whatever form it takes, I do hope that you will be part of it.
oh, that'd be lovely.
As I say, as time wears on, when we started doing this, it was like, yes, let's all gather in Newcastle May next year. Will
No,
that be a sensible thing to do?
but
Who knows?
authors coming from all over the world. So for them, it might be a little bit easier to do it, a blended approach.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Honestly, I think looking for positive things that
Yes.
have come out from this experience, and saying, some of the events that I've done, um, there have been, over 1,000 views of things, and we'd never have got 1,000 people, into the library in Newcastle. So that that is really, really good. I am thrilled about that. Or that people, as you say, both authors and readers have been able to tune in from wherever around the globe.
Yes. Yes.
So I think that has to go forward. Again, thinking about people with disabilities who physically wouldn't have been able to attend an event.
Fabulous. Yeah.
Exactly. There's no problem now with being able to to be in the space that you're able to be in, and do the watching. So who
Yeah.
knows?
It's a whole, yeah, we have to, like you say, look for the good things, don't we?
Yeah, very
Yeah.
much so, and see what we can do. Now, I have a last question for you, and
Okay.
I hope it's not too much of a pressure.
Yeah.
But do you have something on the back burner?
Can I smell something on the back?
Can I smell a book in?
Yeah, I've got my next one with Pietka's Little Brown
Yeah,
is, it will be out in ebook and trade paperback size, the bigger one,
yeah.
in November, and
Ooh,
it's called Truth Games.
truth
So yes,
games. Yeah.
and there are truth games going on in there, and again, it's secrets and lies and relationships and love and all that sort of thing that I love
Mm.
so much, and exploring characters and um, dark secrets, etc.
And can you just give us one thing of what's the setting?
The setting, well, it's just present day. It's sort of set up in, you'll know Heaton Moor. That's
Oh
where
yes,
the character lives, in Heaton
yeah,
Moor, up there.
yeah,
And
excellent.
yes, and yeah, so it's all around that area,
Mm.
and it's just about I don't know, things from the main character is called Ellie, and it's about her past coming to haunt her. I guess
Mm.
that's the best way of saying it.
Mm. Brilliant,
Yes.
brilliant, wonderful, wonderful. Caroline, I am so sorry that we'll have to stop, because to me it's always the sign of such a fun interview where I'm thinking, oh, we've just seen the clock, and we better draw this to a close. It has been an utter pleasure to have you in the doctor's surgery.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you for so much fun in talking about your work and taking us on that journey. Uh, all the very best with Betray Her, and we'll be there in November for Truth Games. Yeah, we'll
Excellent.
we'll be watching out for that. And hope that we can meet up in the not too distant future. Yeah,
Definitely. That's lovely. Thank you so much for having me.
a pleasure, a pleasure. Bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.